going to be quoting from a few things here. And with Mark Connolly, Ian mentioned this is his memoir, Voices Offstage. It's a great book. I read it, and it's just got some fantastic stories in it. And he ties in all of the other members of the group of the Round Table. And he did some pretty remarkable things, and all of the group, they were remarkable wits and loved their comedy. A lot of them were comedy writers, but they all had very serious sides, as Ian has pointed out. And in this first part, he's referring in his memoir to the writing of the Green Pastures and the fact that it's written from the poor Southern black perspective from 1929. And he wasn't sure how that was going to play out. It was very controversial politically and socially at the time. And he really thought it was going to backfire and not go anywhere. And it got tremendous reviews, and he actually edited out some things that he had put in there because it's all about the Bible. And he was afraid that everybody was going to get arrested because it's all biblical stories told from a poor Southern black child's point of view and how that child interprets the Bible. And so it's pretty interesting. And when it did get popular and a producer wanted to make a production of it, it was right after the crash, the Wall Street crash of 1929. And this particular gentleman had cashed in his blue chips a little bit before that crash, seeing it happen. So he had money when most of Broadway was broke and the arts were broke. And so this is a little excerpt from his comments here. When people began jumping out of windows at the end of November, I had lost nothing in the Wall Street crash, and as an onlooker found myself admiring the grace with which George Kaufman, Alexander Woollcott, Ross, and others met with this great disaster. On the 1st of December, I did not share the common woe in anticipating Christmas. The likelihood of any manager, or anyone else for that matter, having enough money to produce my play could not have been more dim. It was then by happenstance that I met Roland Stebbins. Mr. Stebbins had been a Wall Street broker, gifted with a kind of extraordinary perception. He had disposed of his personal wagon load of blue chip stocks at the moment when they were at their greatest value. He and George Kaufman were frequent fellow bridge players at the Cavendish Club. George did the introductions. Basically, I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit. But 2 days later, I met Broadway's new angel. Enthusiastically, he said he would like to produce a play as soon as I could put it on the stage. Not knowing then that he was as astute foresight as he was fortunate, I told him what I would have told anyone not aware of the hazards implicit with the Green Pastures. I told him that more than one friendly manager had cautioned me about the enormous risk and disfavor that it would be likely to arise over a play in which God is depicted as a Negro. It was possible, I said, that the producer as well as the author might go to jail for this timidity. Finally, for my conscience sake, I had to say he must not expect any motion picture company to have the faintest interest in it. The only part of my warning that concerned him was the probable charge of sacrilege. Of course there are bigots everywhere, he agreed, and I can imagine some of them wanting to burn us at the stake. I can see, with political pressure and running us out of town, of Philadelphia or Boston and other cities on a rail. If it's all right with you, let's not take it out-of-town tryouts. Let's just open it right here in New York. So it was a very brave thing that they did at the time. and ended up being a dramatic success and has been recreated in movies and on Broadway. And so that's his serious side to things. They were all wits and comedy, and as Dorothy Parker quotes, said, "Silly of me to blame it on the dates, but so it happened to be, damn it. It was the 20s, and we all had to be smarties." But they had very, very serious sides to them. And with Robert Sherwood, it was the same way. He was with the group at Vanity Fair, and they were critics. They did a lot of comedy sketches. That was kind of their forte in current entertainment. But he was very much a patriot, as Ian pointed out, came from a long line of politically active and well-versed people there. And he wrote, this won him one of his Pulitzer Prizes. It's called Roosevelt and Hopkins, An Intimate History. And he did socialize in a lot of very high political circles. One of his friends was Harry Hopkins. And Harry Hopkins was a very close advisor to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was his right-hand man, so to speak. And Harry Hopkins had amassed a huge amount of information and documentation that he planned on writing a very detailed, documented history of the New Deal era through World War II that was coming up. And he unfortunately died before he had written it all. And his widow called up Sherwood and said, "Can you finish his book?" And he said, "Well, of course, you know, anything for Hopkins." What he didn't realize was that Hopkins had never written any of it. He had amassed all of this huge amount of information, but never actually started it in book form. And what Sherwood inherited was 44 filing cabinets full of information and an assistant to catalog it all. And out of that, he spent 2.5 years just reviewing all of the information and writing this book. And it's really, really fantastic, and it's a good read for any history buffs, but just in general, it's so well written, and that's why he did win the prize for it. And one of the interesting things that I saw in an excerpt was, it's actually a little bit long to read, but it deals with this gentleman, Hopkins, assisting the president as the president is deciding on whether to bail out Great Britain during the war, and the Americans hadn't really gotten into it at that time, and it was all a little political high drama that was very secret. And the president had been on vacation, not to the world, he was just suntanning on a yacht and everything, but he's secretly scheming how he can bail out Great Britain or give them what they need towards the war effort without ruffling the feathers of the American public, because there was a lot of dispute on that. And so in this fellow's notes, and what Sherwood wrote from this, was that to all outside eyes, the president was just refueling in a process that was vital to the function for Roosevelt. Nobody that I know of has been able to give any convincing explanation of how it operated. He did not seem to talk much about the subject in hand, or to consult the advice of others, or to reap it. On this occasion, he had Churchill's remarkable letter to provide food for thought, but this, though it was a masterly statement of the problems involved, which Roosevelt was already quite well aware, presented no key to the solution other than the expression of confidence. And then it goes on, and it's just amazing how this one person had all of this information about the president's inside thought process. And he inherited it all and created this wonderful history that no one else ever had the information on. So I thought it was a pretty amazing book. And that's about what I've got. Thank you.